Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to our broadcast on tonight. We're so excited to have those of you who are watching live and also those of you who will be tuning into the replay. We want to welcome you. I am Tamara P. Jones, founder of Beautifully Bold Women, where we are a community of faith of women who desire to live in the beauty of our purpose, align with God's agenda, and have success and serenity God's way. We are a community about supporting, empowering, and encouraging women. And on tonight, we're in our purpose series, and we're going to be talking about the pain of purpose. So I want you to go take some time right now. I want you to tag a girlfriend, get them in the room, tag them on Instagram, on Facebook, tell them to come on in the room. On YouTube, you can find, of course, our link put on our Instagram account. But we want to make sure that we just take just a few seconds to ensure that you can get your friends in the room, because I'm telling you, this is going to be a conversation tonight that's going to be absolutely raw, real, and relevant, because again, we are talking about the pain of purpose. So we want you to come on in the room, invite your girlfriends in the room, because we really want to tackle this topic that not many people are talking about. But myself and my guest on tonight, we're willing to go there, and we do go there. And so we want to ensure that you and all of your friends that you can tag right now, get in the room and hear this conversation. We're so excited because in life, each of us have a purpose. Each of us have been designed uniquely by God. We are a masterpiece. There is no carbon copies to you. When God made you, he broke the mold. There's no reprint. You could be a twin and be identical twins and still not have 100% likeness. You are different. Your fingerprint is different. And so I want us to understand that purpose is what God has put on the inside of us innately, that each of us has a purpose, a path that he's designed for each of us to walk through. That, again, we're not a carbon copy of anybody else. We don't need to compare ourselves to anybody else, because what God created you to do is so important in the earth, that he created you, I believe, for such a time as this. Purpose is what gives us meaning in life. It's what allows us to have, I believe, joy, fulfillment, and abundance. And a lot of times when people are talking about purpose, they're talking about, well, once I discover my passion, I can then discover my purpose. The things that I'm passionate about will lead me to my purpose. But I want to submit to you on tonight that pain is also a part of the process to purpose. And a lot of times when we're on life's path and we get to certain points in our life and we are filled with disappointment or some type of pain that we meet, and then we believe that it's designed to destroy us, right, or designed to detour us. But I want us to know that pain is not always designed just to destroy us, but it's designed to develop us. And so we want to understand that pain is also a thing that can truly begin to develop us. I believe it's the catalyst for helping us to reach our potential and help us to expand and understand our capacity for living, our capacity for doing, our capacity for becoming everything that God has called us to be. For some people, stop when they get, to a place in life, like I said, where they have this obstacle. But we want to help you, encourage you on tonight to be able to move past the obstacle, because I want to assure you, and as we talk on tonight, you're going to understand that pain is a part of the process. And sometimes we can find out that when we're in this path of purpose and we go through a process, or when we go through or meet or intersect, right, with pain, that it can also bring us closer to God, and for some, even discover who God is. Because again, purpose is innate. God placed a purpose down on the inside of each one of us to fulfill. And so a lot of times people want purpose, but they don't want it with the pain. And for a growing segment of the population and society, they want to live a life of purpose, but want to live it without God. And he is the author. He is the manufacturer of our being. He's created us with a path that he has designed, again, uniquely for us. So I'm so excited on tonight that we have a phenomenal woman, a phenomenal special guest that is going to be talking, and we're going to have this conversation about the pain of purpose. She is someone who is an writer. She is an author of the book I Was, I Am. She's an award-winning speaker, a TEDx speaker. She's also America's prison break coach. She's someone who is a catalyst for success and change. She helps women over the age of 40, professional women, be able to break through life setbacks and, avoid those mental prisons and truly live in a life of freedom and authenticity. She herself has been someone who understands the pain of purpose, understands life setbacks, but has moved past those setbacks, have moved past that pain to really live in a life of absolute abundance. And so I just want to be able to present on this evening my good friend, I will say, Mrs. Allison T. Moore. Allison, are you there? Yeah. I am so excited.
This is like I'm in the living room with you. So let's go.
We are in the living room, right? And we know how to go. And it's so awesome. I know you and I were sharing, before that, hey, we met in high school, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to bring that personal touch of how in life God continues to intersect your life and have those divine connections. And you have been on my journey and on my path of purpose for some time, even being very instrumental, being a consultant for me to release my first book, Pain to Purpose, Unleash the Power to Press Through Life's Obstacles. Yes. And also my subsequent book, The Unstoppable You, Success is Inevitable to the One Who is Unstoppable. And because you were I Was, I Am, you allowed me to be the I Was, I Am. And
right
so
there.
I was right behind it. I was like, hey. And I was just so excited to just have you and just want to let people know that we work together. We've been in these intimate spaces together. And so when I thought about this series and I thought about the Pain of Purpose, Allison, immediately I thought of you. I said, wait a minute now. Somebody who has an awesome story, an awesome testament of how you can move through life setbacks, and also someone I believe who has the heart for people to truly transform, because there are some people that can begin to sit in that space and never, like I said, their own mental prison, but also create their own physical prison, never come out their house, never feel like they can really matter or do anything because, oh, this happened to me. And you are someone, Allison, that's had challenges, you've had setbacks, you've had struggles, you've met with tragedy, you've even been physically detained. We're talking about the mental prisons, right?
Yes.
You're talking about being physically detained.
Bars. Yes.
Physically detained. And through that experience was transformed, right? Out of the darkness, out of the walls of the prison, out of the prisons even of your own mind, to transform into the success that you are today, having a wonderful career as a life coach, NLP practitioner, being able to help so many women be able to break free, like truly, authentically. Come on, Allison, we're talking real stuff. You got the handcuffs.
Yes. Not like you think. No.
Right. It's truly taking the handcuffs off of even your mind. And so I just want to thank you so much for sharing this space with me, because like I said, I think no other has the story that you have. You're America's prison break coach. Like, you're talking about national, world renowned. Okay. So those that don't know are going to know tonight.
Now you know.
Following. But after tonight, those that didn't know, now they're going to know. And I'm just so excited to introduce and bring you to this platform so that other women can hear your story and also understand how they don't have to stay stuck in any place in life, that they can move through, push through, and understand that pain is a part of purpose. Forget what the world told you. Everything is going to be happy.
No, you can't run no more. How about that?
Can't run no more. How about that, right? So I'm just excited on tonight. And I just wanted you, just as we begin to open, because I always say with women, we have so many layers, right? And there are parts of your story that I know and parts of the story that I'm going to be, that may be revealed to me that I don't know. But I do know your story is absolutely powerful. So I just want you to just share with us your story.
Yeah. So I just absolutely just am basking in that introduction. And it's one of those things where when you move to a certain place and people start talking about, like where you were and where you are, I'm looking like, oh, she told me. That was me. That's you. So yeah, so I truly appreciate you thinking of me when you think of pain and purpose being intertwined and not in a negative way. So I definitely appreciate that. I think I always think about my story as one where when people hear prison as a part of the story, they automatically think that I'm going to talk about prison, right? And while physical prison is a part of my experience, that's not like kind of how the story started, and that's not really the story, right? So yes, I did. I ended up in a physical prison. I had pretty much had challenges my entire life. um, Anything that you can think of that kids go through traumatically, with you losing parents, moving away, not having the support, and just living a path of just always getting in trouble without having guidance. It led me down a path of, pretty much crime at a very young age. And it kind of continued on throughout my life. And in my mid 30s, it was like, enough is enough, right? I had, being a woman, it was never really like the popular thing for women to be sent to prison for nonviolent offenses. And I had been racking up nonviolent offenses, since I was like 18 years old. And I go to court one day. It's a secret from my entire family. Nobody knows that I have this court date. And I just assume that I'm going to be coming home, right? I give my story. And I like to share that because a lot of times, you know how when you get in trouble, you kind of, that's when you call on God. You're like, please just help me out of this one. I'll never do it again.
Yes.
Never do it again. I'm like, okay. So I knew the Lord. I was praying. I was writing. I was doing everything that I knew to do. And I'm like, Lord, get me out of this one. You ain't never got to worry about me again. And I go to court, I stand before this judge, and he basically is saying what he's going to do. And this is what's happening. This is what we're recommending. And it gets to a place where I know that I can't run anymore. I know that it's not going in my favor. So I try to think of anything that I can do to at least try to alleviate the pain that's happening in the moment. Right. So in that moment, I'm okay, Your Honor, I understand, that this is something that has to happen, but can I have time to prepare? And he says, okay, young lady. He says, why do you need time to prepare? I said, well, I have 2 young kids at home, and they're going to get off the bus and I'm not going to be there. Nobody knows that I'm here today. And he says, all right. He asked me how old my children are. And he says, did you have these children throughout these years of committing offenses? I'm like, okay, time to tell the truth. Yes, Your Honor, I did. And he says, okay, that's great. Well, your request is denied and your sentence starts today. So in that moment, I really started feeling like God had failed me. And I had no idea what I was going to do based on the sentence that I was given. So I was given a 7-year prison sentence in a maximum security facility, basically meaning that was my sentence unless I got paroled. And it was like life left my body because I just became empty. And I just started crying out and like snot bawling crying, like just everything was leaving me because I couldn't believe what was about to happen. And I could remember feeling like God left me. And I may have even said that like subconsciously, like, God, you left me. And he started to literally show me all of the times and instances that he had saved me previously. So it's literally like a movie. Like, it's like, remember this time and remember when you were here and when you were with this person and you were in this car. And like, so I got to watch how God has kept me throughout that whole time, and basically saying, you're going to sit your tail down and you're going to listen to me for once in your life, because there are things that have happened to you that you have to be free from so that you can help others be free. Now, it didn't come all pretty like that in the package when he was taken. So, it wasn't like that. That ain't how God talked to me. God did not make it all pretty. It was literally just very much in a way that, okay, you're going to get it this time. Like, I'm tired of you, tired of you getting all pretty and cute and thinking you're going to come in here and talk your way out of it. Because that's had been, my experience in the past. And it was like, time's up. So nope, sentence started today. And it was from that moment that I started to recognize that the physical prison that I was sentenced to, I had already sentenced myself to mentally
Mm.
throughout my entire life, based on the things that happened to me, based on being comfortable with saying that I was the victim, getting attention from being a victim. And that allowed me to get pushed along without ever being accountable, regardless of what happened to me. So the biggest lesson was, it doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't matter what happened to you. It does not discount that or even disrespect some of the pain that you experienced. But you don't have the right to use that as an excuse anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
And just the experiences you say, having a conversation with God, like not this time, right?
Yeah.
Even in where you were physically, God already knew, right?
Mhm.
And it's like you said, I felt numb, but it's getting your attention.
Yes.
Sometimes pain exposes us, Allison, to what we don't know, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like we are, like you say, having the trauma, you find yourself looping in these experiences,
Mhm.
and you need like a stopgap. Like, okay,
Yes.
this is where
Yeah.
it stops.
Yeah.
And sometimes we can get it, and sometimes pain is the trigger to let us know,
Mhm.
wait a minute. Now I gotta shift. It
Right.
almost makes us realize where we've been, because you can be in a pattern, you can be in a state, like you say, that mental prison, not even
Mhm.
just physical, and that can be a pattern that we continue to repeat over and over again. And we
Yes.
need that pattern interrupt measure.
Pattern interrupt. Exactly what it is.
Do we need to be tamed physically?
Mhm.
For some, like you said, that's your story, but that's not the end of the story. Come on, God.
Right.
That's not the end of the story. But you were able to be transformed in
Mhm.
dark places. So we
Yes.
must understand and know that God has the ability to transform us right where we are, because sometimes we move away from God when we
Yes.
experience the pain rather than running to God. And
Right.
He's saying, wait a minute, I
Yep.
got the answer.
Hey, hello. I'm here.
I created the blueprint for your life.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
let me just let you understand. I put you in
Mhm.
your mother's womb, right? I
Right.
formed you. I fashioned you. I gave you a plan. And guess what? Whatever I plan, it will prevail. So over your life,
Yes.
like I said, the masterpiece, God is the masterpiece. He's already formed and said, this is what I want Allison to be. This is who I want
Mhm.
Tamara to be. And all those who are watching, He's already called us, know us by
Yes.
name, gave us a
Yep.
purpose, gave us an
Mhm.
innate way to not only just discover, but walk in what He already called
Right.
us to do. It has already been laid out. We're
Already
the
laid out.
ones that are the deviants. Come on,
Mhm.
somebody. We're
Yes.
the
Yes.
deviants because we get off the plan.
Yes.
I got a will for you.
It's that, cliche, but we get in our own way, right?
Mhm.
We want to live our lives independent from divine guidance for a lot of different reasons, right? It's maybe because we don't see it, but that's not required, right? You don't need to see it to know that it's there,
Yep.
right? We also don't have an understanding of time, so it's taking too long. I'm going to do it my way. And then we also find ourselves in places where we want payback.
Mm.
We want someone to
Retribution.
pay for the life that we were given, right? I didn't sign up for the life I was given. There were a lot of things that could have happened along the way that I felt would have been better for me, but it wasn't. I just didn't know. So when we become impatient and we try to create our own way and our own path, and we don't really follow that guidance, it's because it's too noisy, right?
Mhm.
Everything happening externally to me was too noisy. How was I going to listen to God, right?
Mhm.
I'm not listening to God because, for one, I don't know Him for myself. And
Mhm.
I'm listening to what everybody else is saying about God. So I'm like, well, God don't do that for me. I'm using like secondhand used God. So I'm not getting the results because I'm trying to do everything my own way because I want it faster, I want it better, and I don't have an understanding of it. But you said something where in the darkness, right?
Mhm.
And I want people to think about like what darkness is. Darkness is not like just not seeing physical light. It's just the absence of,
Mhm.
right, the light.
That's good.
So with me having the absence of light, the darkness for me was the isolation where I could not rely on anyone but God that I only knew from someone else.
Mm.
So if everything I knew about God was the pastor said, first lady said, my friend said, my mama said, nanny said, all these people said all this stuff about God, and I'm just taking their word for it. I was in a place where it's like, nope, you got 23 hours of a 24-hour day to learn what you can about me, what my plan is for you, and what you're supposed to do when you get out of here. I couldn't have gotten that any other way. So my isolation created the relationship that I thought I had that really did not exist. But most of us don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
We don't want to admit it. We don't want to admit, you know, I really don't know God for myself. We like to say things and we copy sayings and we repeat scriptures, but they don't mean anything to you until you create what the meaning is for you, as opposed to what you've heard. And this is not just like in a short period of time. This is your whole life.
Yeah.
I had to unlearn all of the things that I was taught about God and his punishment and what you needed to do. All the things that scared me into serving God didn't do me no good.
Right. And so
I needed to learn the God for myself of what that meant and how did I move to purpose from that. That didn't come from nobody. I had to learn it for myself.
Yeah. And it can't come from anybody because the relationship with him, he's the manufacturer.
Mm-hmm.
He's the author of you. He put his stamp on you, right? You're his. And so who do you go back to? You go back to the manufacturer. Mm-hmm. Anything else, you don't want to go to the third-hand supply store. You want to go to the one who can fix
source.
Your life for what it is that he created you to do. And to guess what, put you on the path. Because you said something too that I thought was very important was the noise. Mm-hmm. Right? We live in a noisy society, but we have to learn how to rise above the noise in our life, the circumstances, the situations that tend to overwhelm, because that in and of itself can cause pain because you can't even hear God.
Nope.
You don't even know his voice for yourself.
Nope.
And it takes sometimes coming into these places, like you say, I say, not just of isolation, but being alone with God, that you can understand his voice, understand that what is working out in your life, like Romans 8:28 says, is for your good, but you don't know that. And sometimes it's perverted in that you think, well, how can this be for my good? Again, pain exposes you to what you don't know. We have so many examples in the Bible of people who went to prison that knew God, was dreaming about him and dreaming about his position and place and still was put in a prison. Right? But the relationship, I think, is so important to be able to rise above that noise and the messiness. Right? So there's a messiness. In this journey. It's not just, a lot of time. And that's the thing about purpose. People think, I just find my passion and I do my purpose and everything is so wonderful. But there's a messiness in the middle of discovering and becoming, because it's a process of becoming who God called you to be. So the pain, again, is a trigger. It lets us know where something is wrong. It lets us know what we didn't know. And so we have to, like you say, the perspective you talked about in the beginning, we have to look at things differently. We got to look at things from a different lens.
For sure. And you don't know that lens in the moment. It's like I realized that the life that I was living was from the lens of the child. Right. So all of my decisions were based on, like, I was still living my life through that wounded child. So there's no way I would know what to do because my actions, my movement, all continue to move me along as the wounded child because I didn't know about healing, true healing. Right. So it was like I didn't know about true healing. So when you think about the lens, we could talk. I know we could go. Let's say the lens, like we about to talk about the mask, right? So. We ain't gonna stay there too long. But when we talk about the lens, you talk about the mask, right? So we mask the lens because we don't really want to see what is actually happening. We don't want to understand that it's who we are and who we need to purge. We want to look at the outside. It's this person, it's that person, it's this thing, it's how I was born, who I was born to, what if this and what if that. That's like you just be like we're too busy trying to be someone else. When you are living divinely guided, you are being you more authentically. But we don't know how to do that because we don't want to go through anything. We don't want to go through the pain. We don't want to accept pain as being a part of purpose. We do look at purpose as being this popular thing, like, oh, I want to find my purpose. Well, it's probably already there. You just don't want to touch it. You don't want to scratch the surface. You don't really want to dig deeper. You would much rather continue to show up wearing a mask so that no one knows what you've experienced.
And you don't want to face it again, going back to that pain. Because, when you're in the process of purpose, that pain can come from the purging, right? And the pruning. And we know purging is a squeezing to release something out of you, or the pruning is a cutting. All that hurts. But guess what? In a tree, when it's pruned, it can grow better and richer fruit. It can grow wider and bigger. And so that's what God wants to do with our life. So sometimes the pruning effect is to make us better. As long as we don't allow it to make us bitter. And that's what the mask comes on, is because we don't want everybody to know I'm a little bit bitter. I'm a little bit salty. Like you said, and you was honest, like, God, you wasn't feeling them like that. And we don't want to be honest when God is like, I already know. I already know. Like you said, we can stay on that, but we're going to move because I want to know.
Okay.
How has being America's prison break coach helped you on your path of purpose? Because you helping free some folks.
Ooh, yes, child. I'm telling you, how it's been. Well, you know what? It's helped me because I think what I've learned about my purpose, and something that I never knew early on, was the purpose is bigger than me. It was more than just about what I wanted or needed, right? So if I want a good relationship and I want healthy children and I want a good business, and my passion has to be in that, my purpose has to be in that. But I think how it's helped me the most is recognizing, like, my desire to help other women break free is the passion and the purpose that shows me that it's not about me. So it's not about the things, right? I'm not more connected to things than people. Yeah. And for so long, when you're struggling, or you're trying to survive, or you're in poverty, like, all you can think about is the things you want. But how it's helped me in my journey is it made me recognize that everything has nothing to do with me. It's all about the people. Like, even if you think about our relationship, right? Like, God knew, like, all those years ago, like, where we are today, even after that, like that, it's the steps, you count the steps back, you kind of look at the pathway. So that's really it. It's helped me in my journey because it's so much bigger than me. And that is so much more fulfilling than trying to do anything just for myself.
Purpose, I would say the purpose, we didn't come here for ourselves. We came here for God. And that's why purpose is so important, because it is what God called you to become and do in the earth. And when we get that right, we understand that purpose it's never about us. It's who we're called to serve. We're created for a specific reason that someone, God has said, I've given you to do that. Right. And even if someone is doing something similar, it's not how you do it. It's not specifically what you do. And so that's why I said, stand firm in that uniqueness. And we are such a society that wants to be influenced by everybody else. And God is saying, wait a minute, what I'm doing inside of you is just as powerful. But when we understand that, but again, going through the process of discovering that, because wanting to be like everybody else, or wanting to be a people pleaser, keeps us from understanding the treasure that we have already on the inside of us.
Don't say people pleaser. Don't say that.
I know that can take us all. I know we've got so much that will take us in so many places.
Like, well, I mean, that's all a part of it too. I mean, we talk about like imposter syndrome and people pleaser. It's really all in you. Little by little, you have to, when you become more of who God created you to be, those things don't become a part of it, because you can't be a people pleaser when you're on a path and following this divine guidance. You can't be, because everybody don't want you to go. Everybody wants you to do things for them. You'll always be, worrying about everybody else more than you worry about yourself and what you need to do, which is why a lot of us get derailed.
Yes.
Because we're putting so much energy and effort into what other people think, what other people want, what other people said you should be doing, what other people said you're good at. And we never sit still enough to find out, what is that for me?
Yeah. And what is the assignment? Because purpose is the package, but it's the assignment that God is after, right?
Yes.
That's the term that we use, but it's really our assignment. And so a lot of times when we're looking for people to author or tell us, like you say, what your purpose is, or because if you don't define who you are, people are going to define it for you, right?
Yeah,
And you're going to
already
walk
done.
there and
You already who you,
you've already delayed and derailed.
Mhm.
But I believe that because God is so awesome and because he loves us so much, that as long as we get back in tune, he will
Mhm.
show us. And I love what Joel says, he will restore the years. So we
Mhm.
don't have to worry about, like you said, the time. He
Yes.
sits in time. He already knows the end from the beginning. He already knows the end and things that we're called to do. But we have to get to the realization of
Yes.
why we're here. And I think that's the most important thing. It's about the becoming who he's called us to be. Because I love what Miles Monroe said. He said, who you're becoming, you already are.
Already are.
You already are. Like
Already
what we're
are.
trying to do, we're
Mhm.
taking all these bypasses, but we already are. What the purpose is already in us. What
Mhm.
we're called to do, what we're able to do, the abilities to do, the giftings to do. Like you said, the selflessness and who we serve.
Mhm.
Everything is right in us to do it.
Yes.
But again,
It's what we do, right? So we already are, and that's what my work teaches. It's we have allowed life circumstances to dictate to us who we need to become to avoid feeling the way we felt in our darkest moments. We create this personality around that. So I was created a certain way, right? You look at kids, they're the easiest ones to kind of glean from, right? They're not afraid of anything. Where do they learn fear? Us, an afraid adult.
environment.
Right? So it's like we create all these things that wasn't us from the beginning.
Yeah.
So you got to unpack those layers and make it make sense.
Yeah.
Like you create a personality to deal with the world. After one moment in life, we all have an experience where we tell ourselves subconsciously, okay, I never want that to happen to me again. So this is how I'm going to be. Right. So if you get teased for getting all your homework done, right, and you're embarrassed and you can't make friends, guess what you're going to start doing? Not doing your homework.
Yeah.
So I'm going to create this person who doesn't do their homework because I can't be the person that does it because that's going to get me excluded and all of that. So think of that that's where the prison break starts. You need to go back to that one moment where you decided to be somebody that you were not created to be to help you deal with and cope with the pain of the experience. That's where you got to start.
Yeah.
And that one moment in time changed your entire life. You got to go back to that moment, retrace their steps. That's where guidance comes in. That's where prayer and action, right? You're not just like praying like you're looking for a job and you never filed an application. It's all the purpose in it, but you got to be ready.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to do it because it's not. I shared something on social media. I'm like, it's not easy. Don't let nobody tell you it's easy. Now it could be simple if you create a practice around it, but uncovering and unlocking and undoing all the stuff that's done, especially at our age, it ain't like you gonna wake up tomorrow and everything's gonna be great. It takes work. What is it worth to you to live your life with true passion and purpose, not just what God allows or gives it to you provisionally? What about the perfect?
Yeah.
I don't want provisional will. I want the perfect will.
How about that? Amen on that all day long. Perfect. And we find that we can have the perfect will when we align with his will.
Yes.
That's where the perfection is. And so we have to remember that aligning with God's will, he is the perfect one. And he's already had the plan. And when we align with that, we can have, like you say, that perfect will rather than the provisional will, which is so very important. I mean, just some juicy stuff. I mean, there's some things that's churning in my head, but I think I'm gonna move on.
I know, like, how much time we got? Is there a part 2?
We gotta do is say the word, because we got some stuff to unpack, because truly this is so very important for particularly because we're talking to women. Maybe it happens to men.
Yeah,
we're talking to women because we're the ones that pile the stuff on, the expectations on, right, and not
layer after
layer after layer, and gotta pull it off. And God's saying, I never told you to put that on. And it's painful because now it weighs us down. And then it's heavy to lift that weight off of us. But God says, cast your cares on me, for I care for you. But again, it's a process. It is a process that we have to do. So I want to ask you this. Somebody said amen to that all day long. Come on, the comments are hot. Come on, I love it. I love it. I love it. So what was the moment then that you knew that pain was part of the process to fulfill your purpose? Because again, we're
Mm,
talking about pain being part of the process because some people
mhm,
want to think it's just a passion. Passion is fuel,
mhm.
but passion is not necessarily the purpose, right?
Right, right,
Pain is also part of purpose. So,
right.
what was that moment that you knew that pain was a part of the process to fulfilling your purpose? Because everybody wants to kind of avoid the pain, avoid the hurt.
Yeah.
But it can be good for us. It helps
Mhm.
us.
Right. I think, well, it's twofold. So first it came with, I knew when I started to accept where I was, and not just in the moment being in prison, but accepting where I was in life, opposed to where I thought I should have been. Like, it's like, I should be further along than this. I should not be here.
Mhm.
Like, this is, why am I here? So it
Yeah.
was like when I started with the acceptance of that, with accepting where I was, which meant where I had been. And then it started with me writing. I started writing things to release my own burdens, right? So
Mhm.
the lifestyle that I lived was very much a burden because it was a secret, right? So
Mhm.
there was always whispers about what I did and, what I might be involved in and things like that. So there was talk, but no one ever really knew the full truth.
Mhm.
So I decided that I was just going to write stories about things that happened to me. And it was just for myself.
Mhm.
It was just for myself. I'm just going to unburden myself. Like, when this happened, this day, this year, this whatever. And of course, being in prison, like I said, you're locked down 23 out of 24 hours of the day. So you're in a room with one person most of the time. And I started to read the stories that I was writing. And then people started hearing about these stories. Like, I person was a storyteller in the prison. So I'm telling my story to my roommate. And then when we do have like rec time, they're like, tell this story, tell this story. So every story that I wrote about my life, the women are crying, like,
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
just like a tear, like crying, bawling, crying. And you know how we are about things that I'm like, why are you crying? That's just what happened to me. Like, that ain't no big deal. Yeah, I went through that, but why are you crying? And one by one, it was like, that's me.
Mhm.
That's me. So just like, it's almost like imagining a room where every time you say something, somebody else stands up, somebody else stands up,
Yes.
somebody else stands up. That was the moment. That was the liberating moment for me, was having an understanding that pain was a part of my purpose, because just me sharing gave others permission to share.
Yes.
That's why my story is always about the truth.
Mhm.
I am committed to sharing my story if I am ever asked outright or if I'm compelled, because I know that one of the gifts God has given me is I give people permission to share their stories, whether outwardly speaking it or subconsciously releasing it. And,
Mm.
and that was when I knew.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
what I thought was just for me releasing showed liberation in others when they heard it, and then they in turn shared.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. I'm telling you. Whoo, pain can be a change agent for growth. It's something that, like when you, like you said, you gave permission for the women to release because
Mhm,
you connected with something in them that they were, again, the mask, the lens, they were too
mhm,
afraid to share.
mhm,
And that's true freedom. That's true liberation to be able to
mhm,
say, wait a minute. Because sometimes we think, nope, somebody else faced this too,
mhm,
right? That we're the only ones. Nobody could have done it or had it as bad as we do. And then we feel
mhm.
like, or we hear somebody else's story say, wait a minute,
Yes. You're
my
like,
story
wow.
is, wait a minute now.
And it's the stories that you don't want to tell anybody. So they're living, if I'm keeping these secrets and I'm like 35, 36 years old, that's a lot of secrets.
Mm,
That's
mm.
a lot of shame.
I was going to
That's
say, yeah, the shame for it. The
it's a
shame
lot of
brings pain.
guilt.
That's
It's
the weight.
all of it.
And all of that's the internal weight.
Mhm,
And that's the tears. That's where
mhm,
the tears come from because there's an
mhm,
internal weight of keeping the shame, the guilt, all
mhm.
those things become burdens. It
Yes.
keeps us and blocks us from
Yes.
being in the place of purpose. But it's the things that is causing pain on the inside. And I always say that whatever is on the inside is going to show up eventually on the outside.
Oh,
And
yes.
so those tears is just a liberation, but it's also what's inside that was so
Mm-hmm.
locked up has to have a place to go.
Has to come
It can
out.
be the tears. So for some
Mm-hmm.
people, it's anger. For some
Mm-hmm.
people, it's bitterness. For
Yep.
some people, it's resentment.
It
It has
shows
to
up.
have a place to go.
Yes.
But thank God for the tears. Thank God for the release.
Amen.
Thank God for the release of shame, the release
Mm-hmm.
of guilt. Because so many times from the garden till now,
Mm-hmm.
that's been the devil's
It's all the
ammo.
thing. Yes.
Same ammo, shame and guilt. And so when
Mm-hmm.
we know the playbook hasn't changed,
Nope.
then we might as well be free and go ahead and make the touchdown, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going on with Jesus and make some
Get
goals.
it.
You know,
Yes.
make a goal and really get to what God has already called us to do, and know that His plan and what He had in mind for us, Allison. This is the beautiful thing. It ain't changed.
No, it's the same.
It's the
Yesterday,
same.
today, and forever.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can kind of try to maneuver a certain way. We can weave and bob, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still the same.
No.
What He had in mind for us, it has not changed. Hebrews
Mm-hmm.
13 says He's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. What God had in His mind when He created Allison, when He created Tanda, when He created Tamara, when He created
Mm-hmm.
Evelise, when He created
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, when He created Kimberly, all the people on here I can see, when He created us, He had what He wanted for us to do.
Yes.
In His mind. That's why being like somebody else and not walking that uniqueness
Mm-hmm.
is what causes pain.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, can we just stand up and say sometimes we cause our own pain? God didn't do
Oh,
it.
yes. Please. Oh, wait. Now you're saying it.
God, let's just do that.
Amber, I tell people all the time, some things you just can't keep blaming the devil for.
Blame the devil or God, right? They both looking like you're doing a good enough job all by yourself. God is saying, oh, so you don't need me right now. The devil saying, oh, well, I'll just let you keep boxing yourself.
Just do it. Like, go ahead.
Keep giving yourself a black eye.
And it's when this is the place where, okay, so even all the things that we described, some people will still, some women will still not even be able to acknowledge that that's what they feel. But when you said it shows up in other ways, you're not always going to say, I'm ashamed, I feel guilt, you're going to just say, like, nothing works out for me.
Yes.
Every time I take 2 steps forward, I take 3 steps back. Right? So we package it, we even package that up pretty.
Yeah. Or it helps, it works out for them, but it'll never work out for me because they're this and they're that, or they're better, or they're whatever the there is.
That's just Tamara. Everything she does is going to be good because she always had positive people in her life, and she had parents, and she had, we'll think of all the things. And I mean, I know that because that was me. There was no way I was going to be able to get ahead in life because from the very beginning, well, nobody had a life like I did. People didn't have to grow up and fend for themselves. You still have the people to help you. I never had any help. I was abused. Like all these things that's our way of acknowledging the things that we can't really put the right words to. And you have to be able to put the right words, feelings, emotions to that, because you'll always be pacifying and putting a Band-Aid on a wound that needs to be opened and not just reopened and closed temporarily and like needs to be cleaned.
Yeah.
It needs to be cleansed.
Yeah.
It's like you need the antibiotic. You need all that stuff so that it doesn't.
Ointment, all of that.
The
wash.
Right.
Clean it out.
And we don't think of it like that. But even if you think physically, you're created to be able to heal, right? With aid. Yeah. So if I cut myself, I don't have to do anything to heal that cut, really. I might have to take care of it. I might have to be cautious. I might have to do certain things. So it's the same thing with the things that happen to us. Healing is already present.
Yes.
But we just won't dig deep enough to the wound to expose it so that it can heal properly. We just want to keep covering up, put the Band-Aid. Don't tell nobody this. I'm calling it this. Nobody needs to know. Don't tell my business. Can't make friends. Like all these things that we tell ourselves, you got to let that go. You got to find someone to release it to.
Or the generations of them. You don't tell what goes on in this house. And you don't tell, just the
my business.
Yeah, don't tell my business, or anything like that. But I'm so glad, I grew up with a mother that a lot of people don't realize, my mother, I grew up with a single parent mostly.
Mm-hmm.
People think, oh, because you have what you have, that, oh, you got it. No, no, no. My mother
Mm-hmm.
struggled to provide, did what she had to do, had sacrifices, setbacks, disappointments, couldn't find no help, right? Just had to do what she had to do.
Right.
And from that, I learned that I had to do what I had to do, but I also learned how to protect myself.
Yes.
Come on, somebody.
Yes.
That could be a thing too. Being able to build the walls around, like you said, those prisons. You're building a wall because I understand what this looks like. And so I don't hurt like that.
Right. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to stay away from these people. I'm not going to tell everybody what's going on. I need to create this wall because I watched what my mama went through and I don't want to go through that.
Yep.
I could do it all by myself.
Yep. Yep. And I don't want it for her. So I got to be better. I got to do certain things. And that's where I think, particularly for me, when I think about my childhood and the perfectionist and how I was doing things and how I was moving, was because I had to be, because I couldn't, number one, cause my mother pain because she was already doing everything she could to provide for us. So how far be it from me to do something that's going to cause her heartache? Knowing the struggle, like, just certain things. But like you say, that conditioning and things that we go through can be places that we continue to envelope ourselves in, that we've got to begin. And I love, and some people don't know, but they got to look at your TEDx, and I ain't going to give it away. But hey, sometimes you got to see, that's a plug for that TEDx. Y'all got to watch it. You have to take off those layers and whatever has defined you from your environment and upbringing, you got to let it go. So we can stay right there on a lot of things, but we're going to
I know.
Because I want to know what has been the driver through the painful moments. I think I know, but I want the audience to know, what has been your driver through those painful moments?
The driver through the painful moments is literally watching. It started with like liberating my family, my children. Like that was the driver. It was like when I learned that being free and telling the truth was going to also liberate them, that became the driver, because my children think I'm the Lord.
Breaking the generational curses.
They are like, if they need something, they're like, ask my mom. So that was the driving force, is liberating my children, and for them to be free and also not have shame connected to my experience in physical prison. And then along with that is just watching other women break free. Like, to literally have someone say to me, this is the first time I have ever said this to anyone. This is the first time this has ever come up. And then to watch their lives flourish in a short period of time. Because I'm gonna tell y'all, it's hard, but it don't take years. It does not take years. If you are able to identify that core, which is what I help people with, it doesn't have to take years, because we don't have years. If I'm working with myself, like I'm in my 50s, right? And if I'm still struggling, I don't have a whole another 50 years to try to get it right. So it's it comes with me watching other people truly be liberated and break free from something that has had them bound for so long, just based on my assignment that God has given me. That's the driver.
And should not even want to spend, even if you had the 50 years, why spend that? You want to spend the days living in purpose and living in that abundance and that joy and that fulfillment. And not that things every day is going to be wonderful, but it can be wonderful when you know your purpose. I think that's one of the things that's my main driver, is, like you say, seeing the transformation, seeing how you impact others, seeing, because you want to see.
Yes.
I know for me, I'm called to help women align with their purpose and wanting them to see truly what God already created them to be. We don't have to be anything else. And to be able to live in that beauty of that space, see it for yourself. Like, I can feel a certain way, but I'm like, I got to keep pushing, because there's women that it's depending on the word in my mouth that's going to help them understand that, no, aligning with God is going to give you success and serenity His way. The world has defined success through all of the things and the images we see, social media, the materialistic thing. And it doesn't mean you can't have, but it kind of puts, particularly, like I said, the mental prison on the psychic, the burden of feel like I got to be a certain way to have a certain thing. Who said that? Who said that? Do that.
Yes.
That's what God says. There are certain things that I believe that other people do, but I've resolved in my space because I understand God is my source that will give me the resources and the connections that I don't do it like everybody else. I've always been someone that never followed the crowd. But my driver is I rather please the Lord than man. I said on the last part of our series is that I'm not looking for the applause of man. I'm looking for the approval of God. And so that is what we have to understand too. He's the one that brought me here. He knows me the best. He's the manufacturer. He has the blueprint, right? You take the car in when you have the owner's manual. Go back to the source. Go back to the source. So wonderful. I know we're going to take some questions here shortly. But what's some of the lessons you learned? Because I think you talked about a lesson, so you might have already have wrapped up like one or two. But just ultimately, what are some of the lessons you've learned along the journey?
I always think
you have 50 years. There's some lessons.
Yes.
Children come to you like I came to my mother. I remember her words. That's a well of wisdom.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think the lesson, one of the lessons that I learned is there's no halfway. Like you either doing it or you're not.
Yeah, it's like you can't try to eat, you just eat, right?
Yeah. You can't try to do this, you just eat, right? Like, so if I think about when people, what you say has to really line up with what you do. That's the biggest lesson, because I said a whole lot of things out of my mouth that was not true, but I thought they were. Even right now when I talk about my kids, I used to say I'm a good mom, and people would say, yes, you're such a good mother. You only did what you had to do for your kids. A lie. That was a lie. So it's like you got to really get to a place where you align your values, which are obviously have to align with the values that that is things that are important to God. You have to align your values with what you do. So and you have to be honest with, are you really doing that? And it can't be the little things that we say to make it sound better. Like, no, I was not a good mother. I don't care if I was poor and I stole food from the grocery store. Like, that's still not a good mother. That's not doing what you had to do. There's a whole lot of people who are poor and didn't have food and they didn't steal. So that's it right there. The biggest lesson is you got to be about what you talk. You got to, you can't just say one thing and do something else. So if I'm a good mother, I would never do anything to take me away from my children, because a good mother would not do that. So you think of that for anything in your life. If that's something that you're saying you are or you want to do, and the things that you're doing is the opposite, reality check time. Tell the truth to yourself first. Before you even think you're going to start telling the truth in the world. So that would be life lesson is, don't just talk about it, be about it. If I am this, what do I have to do to be that? And if I'm not doing that, I need to say, if I want to have money in my pocket, and I can't blame it on putting my pocketbook on the floor. I can't say that that's why I'm I can't say that. You got to say, I don't manage money properly, so now I don't have no money. If you want to have a good relationship, there's certain things that you might have to learn about how to have a good relationship, how to communicate, because you can't say you want a good relationship and then you do everything against trying to even learn what a good relationship looks like. So that's it. Yeah. Talk about it, be about it. Can't just make up stuff and say this is who you are and what you want to do. That's my biggest lesson. So that's where my authenticity come in.
It's being having integrity with yourself, being integral. That means they're not divided in any way.
Not divided.
You got to have integrity. And that's one of the things that I live by. I have integrity with myself. That's why it's hard. And most people who know me, if they're out there in internet land, they know when I say I'm going to do something, it's like I'm going to do this thing, or I'm going to follow up with you if I don't do it, because I want you to know I haven't forgotten. It's like, that's just a part of me that makes it like, this is what I have to do. So like you said, understanding yourself, knowing yourself, being truthful with yourself.
With yourself first.
With yourself,
it don't matter what you're telling to the other people. Tell it to you first.
Come on now. Tell it to you first. Look, have a conversation with yourself first. have a conversation. If we're going to have, because the thoughts that we think are things. So if we're going to have thoughts, let there be conversations that we're going to have with ourselves. I was telling someone, I can't remember if it was my husband or someone, but I was like, a lot of people talk about, if you talk to yourself, you're crazy. That's the world. But no, I need to talk to myself. Sometimes I need to tell myself, that ain't going, that you, and it's okay.
What did you just say to yourself? What did you just say you was about to do? You said you wanted to do X, Y, Z. So why are you doing that?
Right.
You want people to think you're doing it.
Yeah.
So
it's like you gotta check yourself. You gotta check yourself before you wreck yourself. You gotta check yourself. And I am a big checker of thyself. I really am. I have to admit, I'm truly that person.
Or have good people around you that can hold you accountable if you're asking them the truth. Because if you say, I'm gonna be nicer because people say I, don't have a good attitude. If I say something or do something, I need to be able to say, Tamara, I want to ask you something. I did this, this, and this. Like, what do you think? Do you think that was being, and I have to accept your, what you share with me. And so if you can't trust yourself, then you got to find at least one person that you can trust to filter it through. Like, am I right with this? Or was I wrong? Should I go back to the drawing board? And those are the kind of relationships and people that you need around you.
Right. And that is so true, because I have a few, and that is so important, because sometimes you can't see what you don't see. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes you need to be able to, like you say, be honest, to allow someone to order you. That's not more of a people pleaser as much as it is, I want to be my better self. And sometimes, again, you don't know what you don't know, or like, did I do this right? Or did I say this right? Or how should I respond to this? I've had those conversations. And like you said, I know I'm that person. One of my friends is like, oh, Tamara gonna tell the truth. And she laughs about it, but she's like, no, that's good though. And I've learned to embrace that. It's not that, I'm just cut and dry, but it's that I, at some level, the standard and the integrity is like, no, I'm just gonna say that, and in love, you understand it, because if someone's closest to you, and that's why we have the ladies audit our friendships, audit who we're connected with, audit who we're, because, where we're getting to a space of purpose, you need people going to surround you with the truth, surround you with the love, surround you with encouragement, and surround you with the knowing that there's something in you, so that it continues to come out. Because we all at some level need that encouragement. You and I, in our own right, have done some things, have led some things, have been in spaces, but you always need those people around that you can learn from. And that's why, and I'm going to veer to this because I feel like this is a thought that I had in my mind, that I was thinking about the mentorship. What we do in our community. The mentorship is so important. When you're mentored, you can have people around you that can want the best for you, to help you call yourself to a higher level, because sometimes, it's just that needing that next step. God already knows the next step, but sometimes just needing people along the way. And that's why I said, you and I, those divine connections, our life sometimes continues at different, it continues to come back together in this way. I really thought, like, it keeps coming back, but that's when you know it's divine connections, and that's when you know the people on your path. Like I will think this in my head. I thought this in my head, but I want to share out loud, is that, when you look at your life, the different seamless things that you constantly, those threads, right, in your life, that's purpose. That's letting you know this is it.
Right. Yes.
But we don't always, take the time to look at it, because even if the pain is involved, we don't take the time to look at it. So that's just some good stuff. Good stuff. So you gave us some lessons, and I want you to share, and it might be a couple things, but what nuggets of, when you kind of talk about the lessons learned, so I think that's kind of the nuggets of wisdom, and you may have some more things that maybe you want to share there, but what others can glean from. And I think you kind of already touched that, because I know that, a lot of times it connects us to who we really are and who we're called to serve. So I kind of think you've given with your lessons some of the nuggets of wisdom there too, so you be able to take some questions. But I think it's very important for us to understand that at the end of the day, when we're walking this path of purpose, we can always try to run from what God has called us to do, but we'll be like,
you'll end up reverting
back. You're coming right back to where, he already designed, and now we've delayed the time. So as you look back, how has your perspective changed on what purpose is now that you've gone through the pain to experience this wonderful life of abundance and fulfillment, happily married,
Yes.
all the things that are going in your life, a wonderful career, awesome coach, being on the TEDx stage, all these things that, have happened to you. How has your perspective now on purpose changed?
Well, I think I kind of talked about it a little bit, but really like my perspective changed on the fact that it just was not for me, right? I always thought that purpose was in my job or
Yes.
in a specific role, right? It was like when I have all the things that look like this, then it's purpose, right? And it was sort of like getting purpose and passion like combined, like, or confused. So people would always talk about purpose, but I always thought it was something that it was like, I'm just so passionate about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that passion could just be an expensive hobby.
Yeah.
And purpose is more about moving the needle forward with things that are important and not just to you. It has to expand beyond yourself, your family, your community, where you live, and eventually the world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Because I always say purpose is not a position. It's a position in God, but it's not a position. Like
Yep.
how we deem, okay, if I have these certain skills, this is a perfect job. We're multi-passionate, multi-gifted women. We, like you said, we got a lot of passions,
Yep.
but there's only one thing that God, or things that God has, purpose in our certain, I will say this, purpose changes over time in terms of what God has called us to do.
Yes.
But in and of itself, it's not necessarily a position, but it's a I would say it's a stance that we take in life to serve others. So
yes,
that's good.
Agreed.
And I think the last thing I want to, I don't think we've touched on this as much, but what have you overcome or are experiencing to live a life of purpose? What are you experiencing like today? Because some people think, well, once you ride and you know your purpose, that it's, you're not going to have the pain anymore. You have pain, but you move through it, and we do.
Yes.
But there's still obstacles. There's still things that happen even on this journey, that at the end of the day, the spiritual life of to live a life of purpose and experiencing that life of purpose, still there's a cost. There's still some things that we have to navigate through.
Yes. I would say it's really when things come, it's remembering to follow the same process that it took even when it was the real hard or the real dark or any of that. So it's remembering the steps, right? And I literally have to walk myself through the steps as if I am coaching myself. So this is happening. The first thing I look at is what's really happening. So I'm not creating a story around it.
Yeah.
That's number one. So if this is happening, I just stick to the facts.
Yes. Just the facts, ma'am.
Just the facts, right? If somebody is, let's just say, something is happening in some kind of a situation or scenario. Like I don't make up a whole story about what's happening. Like, oh, this is happening because of this. It's like, what happened? These are the facts. And then I immediately move to what is the outcome that I desire. And then I detach from how it happens. So that's my step. That's my process. Going through something, whatever it is, I automatically don't make up a story, stick to the facts, look at exactly what's happening, what my outcome, my desired outcome is, but I don't create how that happens. It's literally my process, which allows me to continue to manifest over and over again in any scenario and situations. I only focus on the outcome, and I don't tell God how He gonna do it.
Yeah. And that's so funny because that kind of was culminating in my last broadcast. I was sharing with people, I detached from the outcome. That's God's business. That ain't my business. That's God's business. And it will keep you from feeling certain levels of disappointment because you're doing, long as you're doing what God called you to do, that's it. That settles it. And that's what I've learned is that I settled in my soul that whatever God does, however He's designed it,
Mm-hmm.
His way is much better than my way.
Mm-hmm.
And because
Yep.
his purpose, his plan is always going to prevail, because
Mm-hmm.
he knew the purpose and plan that he had for me, according to Jeremiah 20:11, he said they're good and not evil, to give us
Yes.
a future, a hope, and an expected end. That
Yes.
sounds like a good plan to me. Why
Sound
I
done.
didn't try to figure out something, weed my way and figure out what I'm going to do.
Yep.
He already designed it that way. He
Mm-hmm.
already designed, us to win. I remember when I was writing, I don't know if you remember this in the first chapter, I was talking about being born to win. The chapter was
Yes.
born to win, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the little
You use the you use the scenario. Yep.
yeah, born to win. And I said, so when pain comes, embrace it, move through it, because purpose is attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have to know, we have to embrace those things, but also don't be distracted by what you see.
Yeah.
Don't be
Because it's not
distracted by
real.
what you see.
Mm-hmm.
Fix your eyes on
Mm-hmm.
and focus on God and your faith in him. I think that's so important, because we're going to have problems. We're going to have circumstances, situations,
Mm-hmm.
like we talked about, and what you work with women, professional women over 40, that has setbacks. We're going to
Yes.
have those, but we don't have to stay where we were. Like I said, I am. We don't have to
Mm-hmm.
be where we are. We have to stay stuck where we
No.
are. We can truly live this life of
Mm-hmm.
freedom, this life of authenticity, because this is what God desires. He wants to turn that pain
Mm-hmm.
into purpose for us, right?
Right.
Again, even the things that we created, or the things that's just along the journey, that it's just part of life, right?
Yes, for sure.
But we must never fear the process.
Mm-hmm.
We got to submit to it. And one of the things I said in the excerpt from my book is that we have to submit to it and find out that the merge of our greater self is worth
Mm-hmm.
more than the pain that we endured to discover it.
Say that one more time real quick.
I'll do the whole excerpt. Turn the pain into purpose as a process.
Mm-hmm.
We must never fear the process,
Mm-hmm.
but submit to it and find that the emerge of our greater self
Mm-hmm.
is worth more than the pain we endured
Greater
to
self,
discover it.
your authentic self, the
The
person that God created you to be, is worth more than what
Mhm.
you're experiencing.
And the price you pay to discover it, to
Mhm.
become it. Because
Mhm.
remember, what you're becoming, you already are.
Yeah. And the price is higher, actually, if you stay
Because
where
we're
you
so
are.
valuable. We are so valuable.
Price
Can't
is
even
higher
price
if
on
you
it.
stay where you are. What is it costing you now?
Yeah. Costing you now, got you in the negative, all in the pockets, right? Don't even you out of pocket, costing you in the pocket, and God's like, why are you out of pocket, right? I want to do great things for you. So this has been a great conversation.
Yes,
I see the comments are heating up, and I want to be able to, if that's okay with you, Allison, just take a few
I'm
more
good.
minutes to
For
have
sure.
time for us.
Mhm.
Okay. I want to be able to take a few minutes. There's some questions I believe that has been churning in the comments, so we want to be able to get those questions answered. So if you have questions, hopefully we've been able to grab it and put it here so we can answer the questions, or retype your, copy and paste, retype your question here, because we want to take this time. I promise you all that when you join us live, we're going to answer your questions, because we knew
Yes.
this is going to be real, raw, and relevant. Has it been real, raw, and relevant, ladies? I hope it has. It has for me.
I see a question. Do I read it? Or how do you do it?
Absolutely.
Okay. It says, what do you do when a flashback of the past pain pops up and tries to stop you from continuing to move forward? That's a great question. It takes practice. But what I've learned is you have to have, I made a promise that anyone that I associated with and considered my friend, I had to be able to share anything with them, even if it sounded crazy, scary, or something about my past. So if something from my past popped up, I would have to be able to call someone and tell them, hey, this is what I'm thinking about today. Like there would be times where I would feel like I couldn't go to work, because if I go to work today, I'm going to pretty much fall back into some of the behaviors that I fell back into. So it's real.
Yeah.
But the more you practice it, you move farther away from it, and you just remember where you'll end up. Like you literally have to remind yourself, if I keep doing this, this pain reminds me of this. This is what's going to happen to me. It's when you have one of those real conversations with yourself. And just by merely saying that to yourself, it sounds more ridiculous. Like, oh, if I keep doing, it's like saying, if I keep eating this cake, I'm going to end up in a coma. If I needed to tell myself that, then saying it out loud just sounds like, why would I want to eat this cake? you know, and that's just an example, but just so whatever that is. So whenever that pain, whenever that reminder of that thing came back up, I would have to speak with someone who I committed to sharing with that would not judge me or say, are you crazy? Why would you want to do that? Because you know where you're going to end up. You don't talk to those people. You have those safe spaces where you can share how you really feel while you're in your transition. And then sooner or later, then it'll be like, the thought ain't even coming no more, but it'll come and you'll be like, where did that come from? Are you crazy?
Yeah. And like I said earlier, thoughts are things, but it doesn't have power because it can't come the same way. And you and I talked about this. I don't know if we talked about this offline during our conversation prior to, but there's some roots. Sometimes when, we've got to pull up the roots of things that are affecting us in our identity that's causing the pain. Because when you pull those roots, that's going to take away some of this pain.
That's the core. It's the core.
Understand this. Weeds are always going to grow in your life because that means there's life there. And you've got some good soil because something's growing.
Yes. Yep.
So, but the pain is, we pull up those roots, those things that are choking us, those things that keep reminding us, those things that keep popping up again. Sometimes you got to add some fertilizer of the word on it. You got to, renew your mind. Everything's about renewing the mind too. You have to understand. We got to be transformed by the renewing of our mind because everything begins and ends in the mind. I teach that in a whole nother.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Because you are never going to live beyond
without having that.
Think in your mind. You'll never rise higher, whether in money, in who you're to become. If you don't get your mind right, everything else you won't be able to get right because that's where everything enters.
Right.
The mind touches the heart, and then now you got the emotions.
And
mind, heart, emotions.
The emotions are the fuel for the behavior.
Each and every time. And that's why pulling those roots up is so important to identify where it comes from and then be able to pull it up so that you don't continue to experience those pains over and over again like a movie or a record. On a record player, the old record player, getting the grooves over and over again. Now we don't want that. We're not signing up. That's not the playlist we want to keep.
That doesn't sound good. No.
We don't want that. Wonderful. Do we have any other questions? Got a couple more minutes for your questions. Okay, let me see. Did we capture them all? Just going back up to, I think we captured, I know there was a lot of conversation, but I wanted to make sure. All right, so we've got 30 seconds. If you got your question, we're here for you. I tell you, we've walked this life. Look, we got books to prove it, okay? We done wrote the story. I already told you she's a storyteller, but a wonderful writer. Just constantly pouring out. If you ever read her post, you're like, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, like that. I feel that today. And I feel that way. Thank you, Allison, for letting me know. I don't have to feel that way today. No, I sure don't. No, I accept myself.
Start your day, right.
Yeah, I'll be like, I command my morning. I'll be a beast with it. I'm like, no, I'll be that's what you can't have.
Before your feet hit the floor, your feet hit the floor.
Yeah, and that is how I do it. I have to. If I don't start the day with my armor on, I feel it. I know it. I'm like, you're just exposed.
Yeah.
So it's so important. We've got another one. Oh, yes. Yep. We're going to share with that. Yes. We are on social. All right. So the questions are around social. First, I want to, Allison, give you the floor to share how they can find you.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Allison T. Garrett, Garrett. I'm the same on Facebook, Allison T. Garrett. And I know somebody had asked about the TEDx talk. You can find that on TEDx under I Am, How to Move Beyond Your Past to Create an Extraordinary Life. But yeah, that's me. So you can find me under Allison T. Garrett on all platforms.
And also prisonbreakcoach.com.
Prisonbreakcoach.com will give you all of what you need to know to start.
Yes, to really break free. And
only if you're ready.
Yeah, but only if you're ready.
Allison does not play pity pat and patty cake.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to dive in. Like you got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I got you.
Yep, like we're not going to have the, the balloons and all the
No,
little mixtures and have
nope.
pity parties. No, we're ready to dig in and come
Yes,
out with our
yes,
hands up, right?
yes,
Because we're like,
yes.
we're
Gotta
not
be
we're not
ready.
going to be bound. We're not going to be not anymore.
Nope,
Yes.
nope.
Wonderful. And how you can stay connected to this awesome community and space of women, you can go to Beautifully Bold Women on Instagram. Of course, here on YouTube, we're at Beautifully Bold Women. Our website, beautifullyboldwomen.com.
Yes,
And you can also join our email list. So when you go on to Instagram, you can click on the link either on our website or on Instagram and join our email list, because we have so many things coming up. If you missed the video in the beginning, it shows you some of the things that we have going on next month that's happening, more in this purpose series that's going to be taking place. And so I'm so excited about that. We also have a community day on May 18th. So join our mailing list, ladies. I also send inspiration, which hey, it's manna from heaven. I tell you what God gives me and how
yes,
he works in this community. And we're also a community that's not only about supporting, empowering, encouraging, but we're also a community of women that pray. So we
yes.
believe in prayer because we understand that breakthrough happens when women pray. And so
Absolutely.
we're also a force to be reckoned with when it comes to prayer. So I believe we've got all of that covered. I believe it was on the screen for you. But again, we would love for you to join us at beautifullyboldwomen.com. Find us on Instagram, join the community, because we have people that we bring, like Allison here, and people within our community. Again, and it's a space truly where we want to begin to mentor women. We do have training and resources, and I will share, the community knows this, but I think I'm gonna plug this on out here to YouTube so you all can understand that we also have a training coming up called Reclaim Your Purpose.
Ooh,
That I will be
reclaim
doing, and
means
that's
take
going to be
back.
Reclaim Your Purpose Masterclass. So we have that coming up as well. And so if you get on our email list, you will be able to get the inside scoop of the announcements on what's going on in the community. But I just want to say thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Allison T. Garrett, for coming and gracing us on tonight. This has just been phenomenal. I appreciate you so much. And I know that women have taken away nuggets on tonight, wisdom on tonight, things going to challenge them to move past their pain
Yes,
and move into the
absolutely.
purpose and the space that God has called them to be. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love you.
Yeah,
And
love you
thank you all
more.
for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a good night, everybody.